The supermarket lights hummed softly above the polished floor, casting pale reflections across rows of neatly stacked boxes. Dana adjusted the strap of her crossbody bag as she watched Lily clutch a small stuffed bunny to her chest. The little girl's eyes darted between the towering shelves, wide and nervous. Miguel stood nearby, leaning casually against a shopping cart, but his attention was fixed on Lily's trembling hands. "She's been like this since we walked in?" he murmured. Dana nodded. "She froze when we passed the toy aisle. I thought she just wanted something, but look at her." Lily's lips moved without sound. She pointed toward the back of the store, where the glow of a half-lit sign flickered above a narrow hallway marked staff only. The girl pressed the bunny tighter, her knuckles pale. Rex, their sable-coated German shepherd, lay quietly at Miguel's feet. His ears flicked at the faintest sound, amber eyes tracking Lily's every movement. When she shifted closer to the hallway, Rex rose, tail stiff, nose twitching. Dana crouched to Lily's level. "Sweetheart, what do you see?" The child shook her head, curls bouncing, but her eyes stayed fixed on the hallway. "Bad smell," she whispered finally. Her voice cracked so soft that Dana barely caught the words. Miguel straightened. He knew that tone, something buried under fear. He gave a low whistle and Rex padded forward, nose pressed to the tile. The dog paused at the threshold of the hallway, then glanced back at Miguel, waiting for permission. "Go on, boy," Miguel said. Rex advanced slowly, sniffing along the baseboards. His tail stiffened, body lowering into a focused stance. A faint rumble escaped his throat. Dana checked the store around them. Shoppers moved through aisles, unaware of the tension gathering near the staff-only door. She stepped closer to Miguel. "Do you think she picked up a scent? Or someone she saw," Miguel finished. He bent to study the scuffed floor. There, a faint smear leading into the hallway like something dragged. A stock clerk rounded the corner, startled by their presence. Employees only back here," he said. Miguel flashed his badge just enough to quiet objections. "We won't be long." They followed Rex into the dim hallway. The hum of freezers faded, replaced by the low throb of machinery behind the walls. A sour, sweet odor clung to the air, stale fruit mixed with something metallic. Rex stopped beside a supply door and barked once, sharp. Miguel exchanged a look with Dana. "That's not just nerves. He's got something." Dana crouched beside the dog, running a hand over his shoulders. "Easy, boy." She peered at the crack beneath the door. A faint draft stirred her hair. Lily lingered near the entrance, hesitant but unwilling to let them out of sight. She hugged the bunny so tightly that its stitched ear bent at an awkward angle. Miguel rose and tried the handle. Locked. Dana's fingers brushed the radio clipped to her belt. "Want me to call local security?" "Not yet." Miguel studied the door, then the child. "Lily, honey, can you tell us why you were scared?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "I heard crying." The words hung between them, heavy as stone. Rex whined softly, pressing closer to the door. Miguel's jaw tightened. Something was behind that door, something more than spilled produce or a misplaced crate. He crouched next to Lily. "You did good, kiddo. Really good." Then to Dana, "We need to see what's inside." Dana nodded, eyes narrowing. The supermarket suddenly felt far colder than its polished floors suggested. Miguel stepped back from the door, running his hand across the worn paint. A tiny scuff near the lock caught his eye, fresh, not dulled by time like the rest of the frame. Someone had opened this door recently. Rex sniffed harder, claws clicking on the tile. He sat, ears sharp, gaze locked on the bottom edge of the door. The low growl in his chest vibrated through the hallway. "Whatever's in there," Miguel murmured. "He doesn't like it." Dana scanned the hallway, noting a blinking camera mounted high in the corner. The light above it was dark. "Camera's off," she said quietly. "Someone doesn't want a record." Miguel nodded grimly. He motioned for Rex to heel and guided Lily a few steps back toward the brighter main aisle. "Stay with Dana," he told her gently. He knelt, pressing his ear to the door. Faint something, not quite a voice, more like the echo of movement in a large room. He caught a faint metallic clink, chains or shelving. He stood, jaw tight. "We'll need management to unlock it." Dana hesitated. "What if there's a child?" "I know," Miguel said, voice low. "But we can't risk contaminating a crime scene." A few minutes later, the store manager arrived, flustered and pale after Miguel's quiet but firm explanation. He produced a jangling ring of keys and unlocked the supply room. The door creaked open. Rex surged forward, nose to the ground, tail rigid. The sour odor intensified, rot mixed with cleaning solvent. Inside, towers of cardboard boxes lined the walls, leaving a narrow path toward a cooler in the back. "Stay behind me," Miguel warned. He advanced carefully, Dana at his side. Rex paused near a stack of boxes, pawing at the bottom. Miguel crouched, pulling one aside. A small stuffed shoe lay wedged in the shadows, its pink strap frayed. Dust clung to the fabric, but the rubber sole was barely worn. Dana's breath caught. "That doesn't look like it's been here long." Lily's gasp echoed from the doorway. She pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes fixed on the shoe. Miguel slipped a glove from his pocket and lifted the shoe carefully, examining it. A faint sticker clung to the inside, a silver moon with 3 stars. He and Dana exchanged a sharp glance. "Same logo from that missing person bulletin," Miguel said. Dana nodded slowly. "The one about the kids disappearing along the highway." Rex whined softly, pulling Miguel's attention. The dog had moved to the back cooler, pressing his nose to the vent. He barked once, sharp and commanding. Miguel approached, kneeling to inspect the vent. Tiny scratches marred the metal grill, fingernail marks. He felt a chill creep along his spine. "Someone was in here," he said quietly. Dana glanced at Lily, whose face had gone pale. "We should get her out," Miguel agreed, guiding Lily back to the safety of the main floor. He radioed a request for a backup unit and forensics team. The hum of shoppers in nearby aisles seemed unnervingly normal, as though no one else sensed the dark story unfolding behind the store's polished facade. Rex stayed by the cooler, ears perked, muscles taut. His gaze never left the vent. By the time backup arrived, the supermarket felt less like a place for groceries and more like the scene of a quiet siege. 2 uniformed officers sealed the hallway, politely steering customers away with vague remarks about maintenance. Dana stayed near Lily, kneeling to keep the girl calm, while Miguel spoke with the forensic tech unloading gear. Rex sat alert beside the cooler, nose nearly touching the metal. Every so often he sniffed and gave a low whine, as if impatient for someone to understand what he already knew. Miguel gestured toward the vent. "We need to check behind this. It's the only place he's reacting to." The tech knelt, unscrewing the grate with careful hands. As the panel came free, a faint draft of cold air drifted into the room, carrying with it a scent of damp earth and oil. Rex's ears shot forward. He pressed his muzzle toward the opening, sniffing furiously, then turned back to Miguel with an insistent bark. The tech shone a flashlight inside. "Looks like an access chute," he reported. "Drops down behind the storage freezer. There's some kind of crawl space." Miguel's brow furrowed. "A crawl space? In a supermarket?" "Could be for maintenance," the tech said. "But someone's been in there recently. Dust is disturbed." Dana stepped closer, voice steady though her fingers tightened on her belt. "If this connects somewhere, it could be how they moved kids in and out without anyone seeing." Rex pawed at the floor, tail rigid. Miguel clipped a short lead to the dog's harness. "Easy, boy. We'll check." He ducked and peered into the chute. It sloped steeply, just wide enough for a grown man to squeeze through. Faint scuff marks lined the metal sides. Something metallic gleamed at the bottom. A hook, maybe part of a ladder. Turning back to Dana, Miguel's voice dropped. "We'll need to send a team down." Dana looked toward Lily. The girl was watching silently, hugging her bunny so tightly the fabric wrinkled. Dana crouched and touched her shoulder. "You're safe here, sweetheart. Officer Jenna will stay with you, okay?" Lily nodded, but her gaze kept flicking to Rex as if trusting the dog more than anyone else. Miguel slid on gloves and clipped a flashlight to his vest. "I'll go first," he said. "Rex with me." Rex responded with a quiet chuff, muscles tense but ready. Miguel swung his legs into the chute and eased down, boots scraping against metal. Rex followed nimbly, claws clicking on the surface. The chute emptied into a low corridor lined with concrete. A single light bulb flickered above a rusted service door. Miguel scanned the dust on the floor. Prints, small and partial, led away from the chute toward the door. He crouched to inspect them. "Child-sized," he murmured. Rex sniffed along the path, pausing at a faint stain near the baseboard. He gave a sharp bark, then nudged something half buried in dust. A tiny plastic bracelet, bright blue, snapped in two. Miguel pocketed the bracelet carefully, heart pounding. This wasn't just a missing person case. Something far larger was hiding behind the ordinary aisles upstairs. He keyed his radio. "Dana, I'm under the cooler. There's a corridor down here, Prince Toys. We need a map of the building and every access point." Her voice crackled back. "On it, be careful." Miguel straightened, adjusting his grip on Rex's lead. "Let's see where this goes, partner." Rex wagged his tail once, eyes fixed on the dark hallway ahead. Miguel steadied his breathing as he aimed the beam of his flashlight down the narrow corridor. The air smelled faintly of oil and mildew, heavy with a dampness that didn't belong beneath a supermarket. Rex trotted ahead a few paces, head low, nose sweeping the ground in precise arcs. The dog suddenly paused, tail horizontal, body taut. A quiet growl rolled from his chest. Miguel lowered himself into a crouch beside him. "What do you have, buddy?" Rex sniffed a dark patch on the wall, then barked once, sharp and clipped. Miguel aimed the light higher. Scratched into the concrete was a faint symbol, a crescent moon and 3 dots identical to the sticker inside the little shoe. His stomach tightened. The corridor bent sharply to the left, ending at another door older than the one above. Miguel approached slowly, eyes scanning for tripwires or signs of tampering. The hinges were speckled with rust, but the handle shone as though recently used. He tested the knob. It turned, but resisted. Locked. Rex shifted his weight, nose pressed to the bottom seam of the door, inhaling deeply. He gave a low whine and looked up at Miguel as if urging him to act faster. Miguel keyed his radio. "Dana, there's another door down here, marked by the same symbol. I'll need a crowbar or bolt cutters." "Copy that," Dana replied, her voice steady though a tremor of concern slipped through. "I'm sending Officer Barnes down with tools." 8 to 2 minutes. Miguel waited, scanning the corridor walls. Faded graffiti traced along the concrete, scribbles in a language half erased by time. Beside one scrawl, a length of frayed rope dangled from a pipe ending in a crude knot. His pulse quickened. This space had been used for something clandestine. A metallic clink drew his attention back to Rex. The dog's ears pricked toward the door. Miguel leaned close, holding his breath. From inside came a faint shuffle, then silence. "Someone's in there," he whispered. Moments later, Officer Barnes descended with a heavy pry bar. Together they wedged it into the frame. The door screeched in protest, flakes of rust scattering onto the floor. As the last hinge gave way, the stale air beyond rushed out, cold with a trace of antiseptic. Miguel raised his light. The room was larger than expected, lined with empty metal shelves. On the floor sat several plastic bins, their lids snapped shut. A small desk leaned against the far wall, cluttered with papers and a cheap burner phone. Rex moved instantly toward the desk, sniffing along the edge before sitting, gaze fixed on a stack of folders. Miguel approached, flipping through the top file. Photographs spilled out, children's school portraits, each stamped with numbers in red ink. A chill ran down his spine. Barnes whistled low. "What the hell is this?" Dana's voice crackled through the radio. "Status." Miguel swallowed hard. "Evidence of multiple minors. Organized files. This isn't just one missing kid." Rex nosed the corner of the desk, revealing a narrow cabinet bolted to the wall. Miguel opened it carefully. Inside hung rows of security badges, supermarket uniforms, and a laminated delivery schedule. Proof that someone had been using the store as cover. Barnes muttered, "That explains how they moved them. Out with the stock deliveries." Miguel glanced at Rex, whose hackles were raised but whose gaze stayed steady, as if waiting for the next command. "Good work, boy," Miguel said softly, scratching behind Rex's ear. "You found their nest." He keyed the radio again. "Dana, we've got a trafficking setup under the supermarket. We need more units and child services. Now." Rex gave a final sniff around the room, then sat at Miguel's side, eyes locked on the dim hall beyond, as if warning there was more to uncover. Miguel took a slow breath, forcing his pulse to steady. The room felt charged, as though every shadow clung to a secret. He crouched and began photographing the files where they lay, careful not to disturb the arrangement. Barnes moved to check the plastic bins, lifting the lids one by one. Inside were blankets, tiny shoes, bottles of water, supplies hastily packed and left behind. A few items were tagged with sticky notes scrawled in an untidy hand. L2, Shift 5, Pickup, Sat. Dana's voice filtered over the radio again. Units are 3 minutes out. I've also contacted missing persons. They're on their way. Miguel nodded to himself and glanced at Rex. The shepherd stayed alert but calm, eyes flicking between Miguel and the far side of the room. His nose twitched toward a darker corner behind a stack of crates. "What is it, boy?" Miguel asked quietly. Rex padded forward, sniffing along the concrete. He pawed once, then sat, tail thumping softly. Miguel followed and crouched. A slim panel, almost invisible, was set flush with the wall. He pried it open and found a narrow envelope inside, sealed with clear tape. He held it up for Barnes to see. "Bag this for forensics." Barnes slipped the envelope into an evidence pouch. "You think this is instructions?" "Or records," Miguel said. Either way, someone wanted it hidden. Above them, the sound of boots on the chute announced reinforcements. 2 more officers entered, their flashlights cutting through the dim. They began photographing every surface, logging each box and item. The space felt less like a lair now and more like a crime scene poised to speak, if only they listened carefully. Dana appeared moments later, guiding Lily down the final steps. The girl hesitated at the threshold, clutching her bunny tighter than ever. Miguel rose and crossed to her, blocking the worst of the sightlines. "Hey," he said gently, crouching to meet her eyes. "We're almost done here. You did something very brave tonight." Lily's gaze drifted past him toward Rex, who sat patiently, head slightly cocked as if awaiting her approval. She managed a tiny nod. Dana guided Lily back up the chute, away from the evidence and the sour chill. When they were gone, Miguel turned to his team. "Seal the area once we've finished cataloging. We'll need building schematics. There could be more rooms." Barnes gestured toward the corridor. "What if there are tunnels?" "We'll find out," Miguel replied. "But not without a full plan. Whoever set this up didn't just use one storage room." Rex gave a soft huff, leaning against Miguel's leg. The steady warmth of the dog was grounding, an anchor against the storm of thoughts gathering in Miguel's head. Above, the muffled intercom of the supermarket announced closing time, an oddly normal sound in contrast to the grim discoveries below. Miguel swept his light across the room one last time. The folders, the bins, the quiet evidence of stolen childhoods. His jaw hardened. "Let's get out of here," he said at last. Climbing back up the chute, he emerged into the bright hallway. The air smelled faintly of bread and detergent again, but it no longer felt harmless. Dana stood with Lily near the end of the aisle, speaking in low tones. Customers passed unaware, pushing carts full of cereal and fruit. Miguel joined them. "Area's secured," he said quietly. "We'll come back with warrants and a bigger team." Lily looked up, small but steady, her bunny tucked beneath her chin. For the first time that evening, her eyes held a spark of hope. Rex sat beside her, tail sweeping the floor. He lowered his head so she could pat him gently between the ears. "Good boy," she whispered. Miguel watched them for a long moment. The discovery had changed the stakes completely. This wasn't just a single abduction. They'd stumbled onto an organized network hiding behind fluorescent lights and polished aisles. The hunt had begun. The supermarket was eerily quiet after the crowd left. Only the hum of the refrigeration units remained, a low drone beneath the bright lights. Miguel stood near the taped-off entrance to the storage chute, speaking with Dana while Barnes finished sealing the evidence bags. "Missing persons confirmed," Dana said, holding up her phone. 2 of the names in those files match kids reported a year ago. Different counties. Miguel felt a muscle in his jaw tighten. "So it's not just local. Not even close." Dana's tone was grim. "FBI's going to want in." Across the aisle, Lily sat on a folding chair with a blanket around her shoulders. She was still pale, but there was a calmness now, something steady in the way she stroked Rex's fur. The dog sat close, eyes watchful like a sentry guarding a fragile survivor. Miguel knelt beside her. "Lily, do you remember anything about the man who tried to take you?" She shook her head. "I didn't see his face. I just heard a whirring sound. Like a machine's?" Her brow furrowed. "And something that smelled sharp. Like the stuff they put on carts. Disinfectant?" Dana suggested. Lily nodded uncertainly. Miguel noted it down. The earlier scent Rex had alerted on, grease and oil, might tie in with maintenance gear or delivery trucks. Someone could move through staff corridors unnoticed. Barnes joined them, carrying a folder. "Security manager says there's an old service tunnel behind the dairy section. Used to link to a warehouse before the expansion. Supposedly sealed 10 years ago. Let's see it, Miguel said. They moved as a group, staying out of sight of shoppers. Rex patted ahead, nose to the ground. He paused at an unmarked door beside a stack of milk crates. Barnes swiped a borrowed keycard. The latch released with a faint click. Inside stretched a narrow corridor lined with pipes. The air smelled of dust and old cleaning chemicals. Faint scuffs marked the floor, as though something heavy had been dragged through recently. Rex sniffed along the wall, then pricked his ears toward a bend up ahead. Miguel signaled for lights off, and they advanced in silence. Around the corner, the passage widened into a storage bay with a rusted loading hatch. A few crates were stacked neatly in one corner, their lids marked only with numbers. Miguel crouched, examining the hatch. The metal bolts were polished. Someone had used them not long ago. He glanced at Dana. They've been moving kids out this way. Dana's face hardened. We need to check where it leads. Barnes retrieved a crowbar from his kit and worked the bolts free. The hatch lifted with a groan, releasing a breath of cool, stale air. Beyond lay a sloping tunnel disappearing into darkness. Rex leaned forward, nose twitching, then looked back at Miguel as if awaiting permission. Easy, boy, Miguel said, clipping on the tracking lead. We're not rushing. First, call in backup. While Dana radioed for another unit, Miguel scanned the crates. He pried open the top of one. Inside were shrink-wrapped snack boxes, but beneath them, hidden by a false cardboard base, lay a stack of sealed envelopes. He pulled one free, careful not to smear fingerprints. It contained a set of delivery schedules coded with initials and dates. One column bore the same sticky note markings they had seen earlier. L2 Shift 5. Miguel felt a chill settle between his shoulder blades. Whoever organized this had mapped every step. Rex gave a soft growl, ears forward, body taut. From the tunnel came a faint echo. Metal striking metal, then silence. Miguel met Dana's gaze. Someone's down there. They exchanged a nod. Barnes adjusted his holster. The team formed a tight line at the tunnel mouth, Rex in the lead, waiting for the backup signal before they descended. Miguel felt the weight of the moment, the line between uncovering the truth and stepping blindly into danger. He rested a hand on Rex's collar, grounding them both. Stay sharp, he murmured. The darkness beyond the hatch seemed to breathe, hiding answers they were no longer free to ignore. The backup team arrived within minutes, 2 officers in tactical gear and a slender crime scene photographer carrying a portable light. The air in the service bay felt heavier as everyone prepared for the descent. Barnes secured a thin safety line along the wall, clipping it to his belt. We don't know how far this goes, he warned quietly. Watch your footing. Miguel nodded, unclipping Rex's leash so the dog could move freely. Stay close, partner, he whispered. Rex's tail gave a small wag, his gaze already locked on the black mouth of the tunnel. Dana adjusted her flashlight, the beam slicing through layers of dust. Looks like it slopes down toward the old shipping yard, she said. If that's where it ends, we'll need to block off both exits. They stepped inside. The tunnel walls were rough concrete, streaked with damp. Old utility pipes snaked along the ceiling, dripping occasionally onto the dirt floor. A faint breeze stirred the stagnant air, carrying the smell of grease and mildew. Rex moved with quiet precision, stopping every few yards to sniff at scuff marks or scraps of debris. Miguel followed his lead, one hand on the wall for balance. Behind them, Dana and Barnes scanned the shadows, weapons low but ready. Halfway down, they found another crate, smaller than those above, its lid half open. Inside lay a child's sneaker, pink with worn soles. A tag inside bore a faded name. Emily. Dana's throat tightened. She's one of the missing, she whispered. Miguel closed the box carefully and bagged it. We'll get it back to evidence. The discovery cast a heavy silence over the group. Even Rex seemed to sense the weight of it, pausing to press his head gently against Miguel's knee before resuming his search. The tunnel soon split into 2 corridors. The left curved sharply upward while the right descended toward faint rhythmic noises, metal against metal echoing through stone. Rex sniffed both paths, then fixed his attention on the right, posture tense. Right it is, Miguel said. As they advanced, the sounds grew clearer. A cart being wheeled, maybe, or machinery. Light flickered ahead, bouncing against the tunnel walls. Miguel signaled for caution. They approached slowly, hugging the edges. Through a narrow opening, they saw a makeshift chamber carved into the foundation. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with boxes of canned food and folded blankets. A generator thrummed in one corner, powering a single hanging bulb. At the center stood a man in a dark jacket sorting papers on a table. Dana leaned closer, voice barely audible. "That's the store's night manager." Barnes's grip tightened on his weapon. "Guess we know how they stayed hidden." Miguel studied the room, counting exits. Only one behind the manager, leading deeper underground. He exhaled slowly. "We take him quietly. I want him talking." He gave Rex a hand signal. The dog crouched, eyes fixed, muscles coiled. Miguel motioned for Barnes and Dana to flank left and right. They stepped silently onto the threshold, but the manager looked up suddenly, eyes wide. He lunged for a duffel bag at his feet. "Police!" "Don't move!" Barnes barked. The man bolted. Chaos erupted. The table crashed to the ground, spilling papers everywhere. The manager sprinted for the far passage, knocking over crates. Miguel lunged after him, Rex streaking ahead like a tawny arrow. Dana darted to intercept, shouting a warning. The man disappeared into the passageway. Miguel followed, heart pounding. The tunnel beyond was narrower, littered with tools and packing materials. Ahead, the manager fumbled with a key ring, trying to unlock a heavy metal door. Rex launched forward, clamping gently but firmly onto the man's sleeve. The suspect yelled, twisting to shake him off, but Rex dug in, holding fast without breaking the skin. Miguel closed the distance and slammed the man against the wall. "Enough, you're done!" Barnes arrived, cuffs ready. They restrained the suspect while Dana gathered the scattered documents. "Looks like shipment logs," she said, scanning one quickly. "Destinations, dates, and there's another location circled." Miguel steadied Rex, giving the release command. The dog released his hold and sat, eyes bright, waiting for praise. Miguel stroked his head. "Good job, buddy." The manager glared at them, breath ragged. "You don't know what you're getting into," he hissed. "Then start explaining," Miguel said evenly. But the man clamped his mouth shut. Miguel glanced at the papers. "We'll see how long you keep quiet once we connect you to this." Behind them, the tunnel stretched farther into darkness, inviting, threatening. Miguel exchanged a glance with Dana. "We're not done," he said quietly. Rex gave a soft bark, tail flicking once as if agreeing. With the night manager secured, Barnes led him back toward the storage bay, where two backup officers waited to take him into custody. Miguel lingered in the chamber, scanning the papers Dana had collected. The handwriting was cramped, scrawled across invoices and delivery slips. A recurring symbol, a triangle with a dot inside, kept appearing near certain dates. Dana traced it with her finger. "It's on every shipment marked special, almost weekly." Miguel flipped to the last page. A map had been folded into a shipping manifest. Faint pencil lines linked the supermarket to two other sites, a riverside warehouse and an address labeled only as Station 12. "Station 12, Barnes repeated. "Never heard of it." "Probably not on any public record," Miguel said grimly. A muffled sound snapped their attention back to the far tunnel, the one beyond the heavy door. Something scraped against stone, followed by a faint whimper. Rex's ears shot forward. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Miguel crouched beside him. "Show me." The dog moved carefully toward the door, nose pressed to the crack. He sniffed, then pawed at the bottom, signaling urgency. Miguel tested the handle. Locked but old. Its rusted hinges wouldn't withstand much force. Barnes returned from escorting the suspect. "Need a hand?" Miguel nodded. Together they braced against the frame. On three, Barnes shoved the crowbar into the seam and levered hard while Miguel pulled. The metal screeched, then gave way, swinging open to reveal another corridor sloping deeper underground. Cold air rushed out, tinged with salt and decay. Dana switched on a stronger flashlight. "That smell. Like river water." Rex surged forward, his leash taut. Miguel let him lead, the others falling into step. The tunnel narrowed, then widened abruptly into a cavernous space beneath the supermarket's foundation. Wooden pallets and packing tape littered the floor. A rope dangled from a beam, frayed at the ends, but what caught their attention was a row of narrow cages set against the far wall. Empty. Dana's breath hitched. "God!" Miguel scanned the dirt for footprints. Faint impressions led to a ladder bolted into the stone. Above, a hatch gleamed faintly in the flashlight's glare. "They're moving them through here," Miguel murmured. Out before we got close, Barnes kicked at a crate. How long were they using this? Too long, Dana replied. Rex sniffed around the cages, then froze near a scrap of fabric snagged on wire. Miguel crouched to pick it up, a small sleeve patterned with cartoon whales, the kind sold in children's sections. He folded it carefully, tucking it into an evidence bag. The weight of what they'd uncovered pressed heavily on them. This wasn't just one abduction or a single rogue employee. It was bigger, organized, and frighteningly methodical. Miguel exhaled slowly. We shut this place down. Track every shipment, every name on those logs. Someone's running a network and we just tore the corner off their map. Dana nodded, steel settling in her expression. Then we keep going. Rex pawed at the ladder, looking up expectantly. Miguel gave him a reassuring pat. Not tonight, boy. We regroup first. They climbed back toward the storage bay, the sounds of the city faintly filtering down the tunnel. Distant traffic, the sigh of wind through grates. For the first time since entering, Miguel felt the world above pulling them back to safety, even as darkness below promised unfinished business. At the top, Barnes secured the hatch and marked it with bright tape for the crime scene team. The night manager, now handcuffed and silent, sat on a folding chair flanked by officers. He avoided Miguel's eyes. Miguel studied him for a moment, then crouched. Whatever you think you're protecting, it won't hold. We have enough to tear this apart. The man's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Miguel straightened, ruffling Rex's ears. Good work today, he murmured to the dog. Rex leaned against his leg, calm but alert, as if he knew the fight wasn't finished. As dawn brushed pale light across the supermarket's parking lot, the team emerged, carrying evidence boxes and fatigue heavy on their shoulders. They had peeled back another layer of a carefully hidden crime, but the heart of it still waited, deeper in the shadows. Miguel looked once more at the sealed hatch behind them. Next time, he said quietly. Rain slicked the city streets, blurring the orange glow of lamps into trembling halos. Miguel sat in the passenger seat of the unmarked van, scanning the file spread across his lap. Beside him, Dana adjusted her headset, relaying coordinates to the other vehicles shadowing them. Barnes drove in steady silence, his jaw tight with focus. Behind them, Rex lay poised on the floor, muscles taut beneath his glossy coat. His ears twitched at every radio hiss, every squeak of wipers against the windshield. Though still, he radiated readiness, a sentinel waiting for release. Station 12 is 2 blocks ahead, Dana reported, eyes on the GPS. Looks like an old flood control facility. No registered activity in years. Miguel studied the grainy surveillance photo clipped to the file, a row of shipping crates loaded near a steel hatch by the river. If they're moving the kids tonight, that's where they'll load. A burst of static interrupted them. Team Bravo in position. Miguel exhaled slowly, then turned to Rex. Ready, boy? Rex met his gaze with bright, steady eyes, tail giving a single, deliberate thump. They rolled to a stop behind a cluster of trees. Beyond, a chain-link fence sagged under years of rust. Through its mesh, they glimpsed the structure. Squat concrete walls crouching at the river's edge, a single light burning over a service door. The rain masked their approach. Barnes cut the engine. The other officers fanned out silently, taking cover along the perimeter. Miguel crouched beside Rex, clipping on the short tactical leash. This is it, Miguel whispered. Stay sharp. They slipped through a gap in the fence. Mud sucked at their boots and water drummed softly on hoods and shoulders. Miguel felt his pulse steady into a hard rhythm, the calm before a strike. Rex's nose worked furiously, weaving left then right. He froze suddenly, head low, body stiff. Miguel followed his gaze. Fresh boot prints in the mud, heading toward a drainage grate. Dana signaled 2 officers to circle wide. Miguel knelt, studying the grate. Beneath its slats, faint light shimmered in the darkness. They're inside, he murmured. Barnes set a crowbar against the grate, levering carefully until it lifted free. A rush of damp air carried up, river water, oil, and the faint tang of disinfectant. Rex leaned over, sniffed once, and let out a low bark. The team descended one by one, landing on a narrow walkway above an underground channel. Water gurgled below, reflecting the beam of their flashlights. Ahead stretched a tunnel, its walls lined with corroded steel. Rex took point, moving confidently despite the slick floor. His claws clicked softly on the metal grating. Miguel followed close, weapon drawn, heart hammering. They reached a junction where the channel branched. To the right, a faint glow pulsed and the hum of a generator. Voices drifted faintly, almost drowned by the rush of water. Miguel raised a hand, signaling silence. The team crouched behind a support beam, peering around it. A cavernous chamber opened beyond. Stacks of wooden crates and duffel bags surrounded a cluster of men loading supplies onto a flat-bottomed boat, moored to an underground dock. And there, huddled near the crates, were several small figures, children clutching one another, faces pale in the harsh light. Rex's muscles rippled as a low growl vibrated in his chest. Miguel's fingers tightened on the leash. He met Dana's eyes, then Barnes's. They nodded. The plan was clear. Tonight wasn't about arrests alone. It was about bringing those kids home. Miguel took a steadying breath, leaning close to Rex. Time to finish this. Rain slicked the city streets, blurring the orange glow of lamps into trembling halos. Miguel sat in the passenger seat of the unmarked van, scanning the file spread across his lap. Beside him, Dana adjusted her headset, relaying coordinates to the other vehicles shadowing them. Barnes drove in steady silence, his jaw tight with focus. Behind them, Rex lay poised on the floor, muscles taut beneath his glossy coat. His ears twitched at every radio hiss, every squeak of wipers against the windshield. Though still, he radiated readiness and a sentinel waiting for release. Station 12 is 2 blocks ahead, Dana reported, eyes on the GPS. Looks like an old flood control facility. No registered activity in years. Miguel studied the grainy surveillance photo clipped to the file, a row of shipping crates loaded near a steel hatch by the river. If they're moving the kids tonight, that's where they'll load. A burst of static interrupted them. Team Bravo in position. Miguel exhaled slowly, then turned to Rex. Ready, boy? Rex met his gaze with bright, steady eyes, tail giving a single deliberate thump. They rolled to a stop behind a cluster of trees. Beyond, a chain-link fence sagged under years of rust. Through its mesh, they glimpsed the structure. Squat concrete walls crouching at the river's edge. A single light burning over a service door. The rain masked their approach. Barnes cut the engine. The other officers fanned out silently, taking cover along the perimeter. Miguel crouched beside Rex, clipping on the short tactical leash. "This is it," Miguel whispered. "Stay sharp." They slipped through a gap in the fence. Mud sucked at their boots and water drummed softly on hoods and shoulders. Miguel felt his pulse steady into a hard rhythm, the calm before a strike. Rex's nose worked furiously, weaving left, then right. He froze suddenly, head low, body stiff. Miguel followed his gaze. Fresh boot prints in the mud, heading toward a drainage grate. Dana signaled 2 officers to circle wide. Miguel knelt, studying the grate. Beneath its slats, faint light shimmered in the darkness. "They're inside," he murmured. Barnes set a crowbar against the grate, levering carefully until it lifted free. A rush of damp air carried up, river water, oil, and the faint tang of disinfectant. Rex leaned over, sniffed once, and let out a low bark. The team descended one by one, landing on a narrow walkway above an underground channel. Water gurgled below, reflecting the beam of their flashlights. Ahead stretched a tunnel, its walls lined with corroded steel. Rex took point, moving confidently despite the slick floor. His claws clicked softly on the metal grating. Miguel followed close, weapon drawn, heart hammering. They reached a junction where the channel branched. To the right, a faint glow pulsed, the hum of a generator. Voices drifted faintly, almost drowned by the rush of water. Miguel raised a hand, signaling silence. The team crouched behind a support beam, peering around it. A cavernous chamber opened beyond. Stacks of wooden crates and duffel bags surrounded a cluster of men loading supplies onto a flat-bottomed boat, moored to an underground dock. And there, huddled near the crates, were several small figures, children clutching one another, faces pale in the harsh light. Rex's muscles rippled as a low growl vibrated in his chest. Miguel's fingers tightened on the leash. He met Dana's eyes, then Barnes's. They nodded. The plan was clear. Tonight wasn't about arrests alone. It was about bringing those kids home. Miguel took a steadying breath, leaning close to Rex. "Time to finish this." Miguel gave a subtle signal. Dana and Barnes split, melting into opposite shadows along the chamber walls while 2 officers moved to cover the dock. The children huddled tighter, eyes wide, as if sensing that salvation and danger were about to collide. Rex crouched, every muscle drawn taut. His nose quivered, catching the scent of fear, diesel, and damp wood. Miguel leaned close, murmuring, "Steady. Wait for my mark." At the center of the chamber, a tall man with a trimmed beard barked orders in a low, sharp voice. He pointed to the boat, urging two accomplices to hurry with the last crate. As one lifted it, a corner of fabric spilled out, a small sleeve printed with cartoon whales. Miguel's pulse sharpened, the same design they had found near the cages. One of the men looked toward the shadows, frowning. "Did you hear that?" Miguel froze. A droplet had fallen from the catwalk above, splashing loudly against metal. The man's gaze swept the room. He reached for the pistol tucked beneath his jacket. No more time. Miguel squeezed Rex's harness. "Go!" Rex shot forward, a tawny blur across the chamber. He hit the armed man with precision, jaws locking on the man's sleeve before the weapon could clear its holster. The accomplice yelped, toppling sideways as Rex dragged him off balance. "Police!" "Drop your weapons." Miguel's voice thundered through the room. Chaos erupted. Crates crashed as two suspects bolted for the tunnel beyond the dock. Barnes lunged from cover, tackling one into a stack of nets. Dana fired a warning shot that ricocheted off a metal beam, freezing the second suspect mid-stride. The bearded ringleader didn't hesitate. He shoved the nearest crate toward the boat, grabbed a child by the arm, and sprinted for the hatch leading to the river. Miguel charged, weaving past debris. The man slammed the hatch open and disappeared into the storm outside. "Barnes, get the kids," Miguel yelled, sprinting after him. Rex abandoned his subdued target at Miguel's sharp whistle, bounding through puddles to keep pace. Rain pelted their faces as they burst onto a narrow dock outside the chamber. The river churned below, swollen by the downpour. The ringleader scrambled toward a waiting skiff, dragging the terrified child with him. "Stop!" Miguel roared. The man spun, brandishing a knife at the child's neck. "Back off." "I'll cut her." Rex froze mid-stride, ears flat, waiting for Miguel's cue. Miguel raised his hand slowly, voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. "Listen, it's over. Put the knife down and no one gets hurt." But the man's gaze flicked past Miguel to the river to escape. He tightened his grip on the girl. Miguel's heart pounded. Rain blurred his vision, but his focus was razor sharp. He glanced at Rex, giving a subtle hand signal. The dog tensed, muscles coiling. The ringleader shifted his weight, preparing to leap into the boat. "Now!" Miguel shouted. Rex launched, slamming into the man's side with explosive force. The knife clattered across the dock as man and dog tumbled toward the edge. Miguel lunged, catching the girl and pulling her safely into his arms. Rex landed on top of the suspect, holding him pinned with a low warning growl. Officers stormed from the hatch, weapons trained. Dana cuffed the ringleader while Barnes herded the remaining accomplices into a line against the wall. The chamber behind them filled with voices. Children sobbing. Officers reassuring. Radios crackling with confirmation of arrests. Miguel knelt beside Rex, brushing wet fur from the dog's eyes. "Good boy," he murmured, voice thick with relief. Rex gave a small wag, tongue lolling, as if to say the fight had been worth every second. Barnes emerged, leading the freed children up the ladder to the surface. Dana followed, guiding the girl Miguel had saved. She clung to Miguel's jacket until Rex nudged her gently, tail sweeping in a comforting arc. For a moment, despite the rain and sirens above, a fragile calm settled over the dock. The nightmare was ending. The kids were safe. The circle of light from the officers' lamps gleamed on a small object that had fallen near the ringleader, a silver pendant, etched with a triangle and a single dot. Miguel picked it up, turning it in his palm. "Looks like our symbol," he said quietly. Dana met his gaze. "Then there's still more to this story." Miguel slipped the pendant into an evidence bag, eyes lingering on Rex, on the rescued children, on the storm-tossed river beyond. For now, justice had won, but the deeper current of the case was far from over. The storm finally eased as dawn stretched pale fingers across the horizon. Outside the warehouse, police lights flickered gently against the mist. Parents, alerted through the night, gathered behind the cordon, clutching photographs and whispering prayers. One by one, the rescued children emerged from the building, wrapped in silver blankets. Their faces were pale but alive, eyes scanning the crowd until they found familiar arms. A sob broke loose as a mother sprinted forward, collapsing around her daughter. Another father fell to his knees, hugging his son as if he would never let go again. Miguel watched quietly, exhaustion softening into quiet satisfaction. Beside him, Rex sat tall despite the mud on his fur, eyes following the joyful reunions. A little girl approached cautiously, the same child the ringleader had tried to drag away. She held the edge of Miguel's jacket, then looked down at Rex. "Is he my hero?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Miguel smiled. "He is. His name's Rex." Rex leaned forward, sniffed her hand, and gently pressed his nose against her palm. She giggled through lingering tears and threw her arms around the dog's neck. Rex wagged his tail, accepting the embrace as though it was the most natural reward. Barnes and Dana joined Miguel, their faces lined with fatigue but lit with quiet pride. Dana handed him an evidence envelope, the silver pendant glinting inside. "Forensics will want to check it," she said, "but whatever comes next. At least tonight we gave these kids a chance." Miguel nodded, glancing at Rex and the girl still hugging him. "That's what matters." As the sun rose higher, its warm light fell across the dock, catching the raindrops still clinging to Rex's fur. For a fleeting moment, everything stood still. The laughter of reunited families, the steady hum of radios, the loyal dog framed against the breaking sky. The nightmare was over, for now. But in that fragile morning calm, hope felt stronger than fear. And at the heart of it all stood Rex, the silent guardian who had turned a whisper in a supermarket into a story of courage, justice, and new beginnings. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling adventure with Rex and the team. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned. Even bigger mysteries are waiting in the next episode.